We developed here. SharePoint, a part of it is developed here. I'm also an engineering director within the security business. Identity management, you know how every time you power your device, you have to put in your username or password, PIN or biometrics. Some of it is developed here. Some proud moments with regards to skilling, and PS talked about it, and so did Dr. Bitime. We partnered with around 9 universities, reviewed 16 curriculum for STEM-related courses, from bachelor's all the way to PhD. Why did we do this? As a key data point, when Microsoft ADC was bootstrapped in 2019, for each, a number of folks who were coming in for interviews, they had great papers, but were not making the cut. So we narrowed it back to curriculum, what is being taught. So I was very pleased to hear Dr. Butime's presentation in terms of how do we move more towards not only theoretical curriculum, but hands-on. So we've been very keen to review curriculum with those institutions that allow us. We've trained around 80 faculty members with the notion that when you impact one lecturer, you impact at least 100. And lastly, the other thing that we are proud of is impacting close to 8,000 students. We offer them foundational certificates for free, meaning by the time one graduates, you not only have your degree course, but a certificate. Thanks for that.
Good morning. My name is Johnny Falla, and I am the team leader for the Innovation and Technology pillar at Equity Group Foundation. And really what we're working on right now is the evolution of successful Wings to Fly programs. We're working on the next iteration and evolution of the Wings to Fly and EOP programs, which have supported over 60,000 Kenyan youth to date. And as those young people age into and grow into the world of work, we're looking at upskilling programs and reskilling programs to engage those youth in digital entrepreneurship and business building activities. So we're organized into, currently with our current scholars, 81 university-based chapters, and additionally we're working now on launching county-based chapters for entrepreneurship to graduate our ELPs. When they are finished with university, they immediately move over to an entrepreneurship club at the county level that is digitally connected and empowered. So we are in the business of channeling as many great skilling opportunities as possible into this group to drive the really digital transformation of the financial services ecosystem, both at the group level for equity, but then also for our business partner ecosystem. And this is really focused on embedding financial services into tech startups of the future and empowering the talent pool to service and grow those businesses.
Yes, thank you very much. Again, just keeping it with you, John, I want to ask a question following your introduction that Equity Foundation has made a significant investment in education and entrepreneurship. How do you see the role of inclusive digital innovation in expanding access and access to software, development skills, and also solutions across the underserved communities especially?
Thank you so much. Well, I think as many people know, the strategy of Equity Group is really driven by the Africa Recovery and Resilience Plan, which is a 6-pillar strategy for invigorating and driving economic growth across the region. That starts with trade and investment and extractives and agriculture, moves on then to really the digitization of everything. And so we are endeavoring to build a more digital economy, essentially by embedding the right talent into the backbone of commerce itself. And so we're being very strategic about our investments in reskilling and upskilling youth, and we're really asking ourselves, what are the challenges that we're trying to solve for? So at the community level, we know that our young people are the closest as you can get to the problems. And so What we've been really good at in the past through our education programs is delivering and organizing and marshaling the resources for community mobilization to really address community level problems. And so through our community chapters, we're going to be running a number of innovation challenges. We're thinking about how to structure those in a professional manner so that we can really act as another sort of chamber of commerce, if you will. To attract investment into communities and into innovators at the local level. And as the group, we're interested in financing initiatives on the ground level where we really see that there's a great business plan and opportunity to scale innovations where things work.
Yes, thank you very much. And I think picking it up, I want to come back to Ms. Catherine. Amazing performance since 2019, 500 engineers participating in global product development. And really from your experience as a leader in Microsoft ADC, what are some of the key technical capabilities and mindsets that you see as very critical for Africa software developers to thrive in global production teams?
Thanks, Josephine. A couple of items, and I really liked Dr. Humphrey's presentation. One of the things that jumped at me is, if you look at from a Kenya perspective, the number of services that are digitized from a government perspective, and also the number of governments that are digitizing from an Africa perspective, cloud, AI, and cybersecurity. In fact, ever since I started practicing technology, career in technology, we've always had a shortage of cybersecurity professionals. And at any given time when you do a Google search or ChatGPT or whatever your search engine, favorite search engine is, when you look at which are the top countries from a cybersecurity professionals, whether good or bad, I at times ask myself, why can't it be Kenya? Yeah, why can't it be Kenya? So that's one skill, so cloud, cybersecurity, and now AI, but also another key one is a platform. How do you ensure that individuals who are graduating or who want to practice technology appreciate platform fluency? What is a platform? Google is a platform. YouTube is a platform. Meta, Instagram, WhatsApp. What is a platform? An ecosystem that has builders, people who are providing content into it, and their consumers. So how do we drive that? And even better still, now wearing a Kenyan hat, how do we ensure most of us are able to create platforms so that we have better monetization opportunities compared to what is already provided currently? And I see my colleague in the industry from Meta in the room, even as I say this. Another key skill is data fluency, and also understanding what are the current data guidelines from different jurisdictions. Why is this important? I think it's good to also endeavor to develop software not only from the Kenyan market, but also observing global standards. What are those key parameters also? What are the software development standards? I often say before I joined Microsoft, and I've worked with organizations of note, but one of the things I learned after joining this side is the engineering excellence bar is high. How do we ensure we embed that even as those who wish to practice not only software but take up a career in technology, have that. I think I'll leave it at that. And then lastly, you see, ultimately, what is the software for? What problem are we solving? So I often tell people, fall in love with the problem, not the solution. It's better to have a very good solution where you're clear, this is a problem, other than a very good solution but you're hunting for the problem. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think very powerful. We need to elevate the bar when it comes to the excellence mark. Moving on to Brian Mwenga. Your work bridges innovation ecosystems as well as policy. And from your perspective and your experience, what systemic change or enablers do you believe are most urgently needed to scale local software products from idea to market?
Thank you for the question. Systemic change, I'll actually mention something that's not very engineering, and that is market perception. And what actually you see quite a lot is that there is a certain perception that the market has relating to local software. And that perception is very real, even amongst everyone who's in this room. If you were to mention software and mention certain global brands, you will have a certain perception. But when you mention a Kenyan brand, the first question will probably be, what do they have, or what's the actual solution? So I think market perception is something that we should generally look at from all different levels. That begins from academia. I had the good fortune to actually teach a class on algorithms, and the students were like, this is too theoretical, and teachers project management, we want to sell Oracle. So they don't want to build their own solution. There's also market perception from government. So there's been a concerted push for what we call local content, for the government to buy its locally produced solutions, broken as they may be. It is actually also a sandbox. It's a learning experience. But also market perception from a market, a private sector perspective. I sit within KEPSA. I'm a startup. We fight very much to even be heard. Most of the big seats are given to the big tech in terms of actually determining quite a lot of the policy direction within the country. But this takes me back to how that can be changed. And the true way that can be changed is what has been mentioned by Catherine. Standards, high standards. And this is a clarion call to as many startups that are here to focus on quality, because that is what will change market perception. And for me, I truly hope, also through the leadership, to actually have local digital assets that are labeled as made in Kenya. And I think that is a very, very big push to have, she's gone because trade is left. But for her to also have a cache of assets for export that are intangible software products labeled as made in Kenya.
Indeed, thank you very much. Again, connecting excellence and connecting standards to ensure that then we can elevate the bar when it comes to locally developed systems, platforms, which then will allow us to be able to achieve the scale at global levels. Back to you, Dr. Engineer, Engineer Dr. Julius. On a question of collaboration, you spoke about triple helix, there's quadruple helix approaches, but from your view, what models of collaborations between academia and industry have proven to be most effective in driving software research into real-world applications?
Thank you very much. I think for those in the tech landscape, you definitely will see, when we speak of Silicon Savannah, and the Silicon Valley, there are institutions behind which supported that ecosystem to develop. So you have a Stanford, you have at that time when they were starting the Valley, and so there are particular thought leaders who saw how people in academia would go on to become entrepreneurial. And so that now is how that linkage is there. So when you're talking about the tech system in the Silicon Valley and then saying a Silicon Savannah, there need to be anchor institutions that look at the space and are just day and night thinking about the problems that could result. And key for us is really, capacity is one, but I think from sitting here, I know I have some things to go back to the university and now talk about, because standards is one thing that we need to incorporate, looking at how how we train, what are the standards anyway? Do we know them? Can we comfortably talk about such things? But the thing I would say is that thing that we see in this space now is the need for what we're calling lifelong learning. We see that being written about everywhere. But it means that at no point should we say, now I've finished studying. Yeah? You know, when we left school, we were like, okay, we finished primary, then secondary, then university, then you're done. Now you go and work. Never look back at this process. Just continue your life. Yeah? Now, we cannot afford to have students leaving the institution and never looking back at what trends are going on, because their world is changing so far. Even our world really has moved. And I think when you talk about resilience, I would try to assume that the group in this room, we've gone from fixed lines, booths across Nairobi here, and now we are with all these gadgets in our hands and able to communicate easily. But this transformation cannot happen without a collaborative environment, and of course you have the constant feedback between all these different players and platforms where we can actually sit to share ideas, problems, and the kind of curricula that we are looking at require that you have an industry advisory board for each tech program. Yeah? So there have to be industry players that look at your program and give inputs into where the industry is pointing, their challenges. Where government is looking at, their challenges. So you cannot afford to be closed in and say, now I will have some few thinkers, okay, you write this curriculum, you write the other one, without consulting the stakeholders. And now you have to give the students things that are relevant, that they are going to deal with. Give us those problems that are in the industry, and let us put our heads to them. I think one thing that we really struggle with is getting people to appreciate the role of research in all our institutions. So when you look at the research department, we talk about it, but when we say let us allocate budget, that's the first one we say this one. No, let's cut it out. Now, that is a very big indicator in terms of how we look at the things we want to do vis-a-vis where we want to go. There's a mismatch in that. So you want to be in this space as the leaders, you have to get some Kenyans to sit down and we pay them to just think from morning to midnight. Think. And you'll say, okay, no, that's not a job. No, but there are people who are paid to just sit down and think. Now, in France, I'm not referring to Europe, but they have over 200,000 researchers paid by government in different parts of the economy, attached to institutions, because you have to be attached to a university. But your day job is from 8 to 5, just be in the research lab. You'll be given one course to teach, but that's even for graduate students. So the idea is, let's now rethink the roles of research even in our departments, because we need to resource those people to think through the problem. And the time given to thinking through a problem cannot be 5 minutes. Okay, there's this challenge. I sit down, I'll give you what comes off my mind. But if you give me the whole day, I will break it down, give you a SWOT, give you a pastel, give you a VUCA, all those things. And then now when I say this is the solution we are coming up with, you're confident enough to go present it to other people because it's really well thought through. Just one more thing before I'm taken away. When we look at what the PS trade was talking about, she has mentioned about trade negotiations with US, trade negotiations with EU, trade negotiations with Middle East. When we sit down and wonder, who goes for those negotiations and what do they talk about? And how do they carry on when they are cornered and thrown data in their faces like these statistics that we have those statistics thrown at them for our market. So, and who does that? Is that Kenyan in these rooms where we can see what they look like? Because I would want to meet those guys and say, okay, when you're sitting in Washington, surrounded by 200 Americans on the other side of the table, and you've carried 4 people on a delegation because you couldn't afford the visa, then the work, and then they say we're going to negotiate. How do you navigate that scenario? If you're working in a negotiation with China or with these people, they have really looked at you. Look at the fact data on Africa. There's more data when I want to research on a country on the World Fact Book in the US than the government page when I want to read about my country. Then I go there and say, wow, they even know how many soldiers we have, how many tanks we hold. It's funny because we are like, okay, and I'm looking on an American page about facts in here. So that's really where I see. Thank you.
Yes, indeed, thank you very much for putting a strong case for research. It's clear that global leaders or global economy leaders have invested significantly in research. We look at South Korea, we look at the US, and then we have ourselves. So it's a very good challenge for the country to look at where we are investing in supporting scientifically based, research-backed innovation for this country. So as we wrap up, I want to invite Ms. Catherine to really add her point to this and then tell us if Kenya is to do one thing, to move the software sector to the next level, what is that from your perspective? And that will be the same question for Brian and John.
Thanks, Josephine. I first want to plus one to Dr. Mutime on his point around the negotiations, because in Kenya we say kwa ground B2D, different, so we are on the ground. I also want to plus one to what Brian talked about, perception. And I'll start off by just something that I noticed in Dr. Humphrey's presentation. There's a sector that there's also an opportunity to change hearts and minds. Anyone in a room who has a son or a daughter, niece, nephew who games, what do you often tell them when you find them gaming? Stop gaming. Too much time, stop it. Just use your favorite search engine and check what is the size of the gaming industry globally. That is money. So that's another sector we could also, opportunity to change hearts and minds, but also there's gaming activity happening. But again, I agree with you, how do you bring data? How do you create visibility on that? Plus one on Brian's submission also around what can the government also do to really support local investors setting up tech companies. When I look at David Gune, and you'll allow me to share, David and I started our careers in local tech companies. But now we are leading American tech giants. So there's room, huge opportunity in outfits such as what Brian is leading. But also in another forum, another way to look at it is when you look at the diaspora inflows into the country, how can they also, what mechanism can be put in place such that some of that goes into investment? How can we attract venture capitalists also to set up tech companies? Because we do have a problem, guys. When you look at even in that presentation, the number of individuals who are being trained is high, but where are the jobs? Yeah, and it's also very easy for example, cybersecurity. Folks who are trained, it's very easy for them to go dark. You shared statistics in terms of fraud, that is what is reported. You can only imagine what is not reported. As I wrap up to your question, what do we need to do? I think it's a couple of things. I'm very happy we're having this forum, and I look forward to seeing what it culminates into from a summit perspective. And also because we're in the AI era, how do we drive AI diffusion? And with diffusion, it's following the same path like electricity. Electricity caught on in terms of usage because more and more people go to understand what are the opportunities. I think we have a similar opportunity right here. But then also expanding a bit further, I know it's Kenya Software Summit, technology is broad. How do we also pull in individuals who are interested on the hardware side of technology? Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. I think for me, when we're looking at large large-scale industry, we're concerned with how do we drive productivity gains? And how do we drive productivity gains across the board? And that starts with our youth and with their competencies in digital skills and technology. And actually the challenge that corporations, companies, SMEs have is effectively engaging those youth in work. It's not enough to just get a job. It is, how do you not then get put in a corner in that job? But how are you actually absorbed into the group so that you are effectively leading change initiatives internally? And so that has to be engineered. It doesn't just happen. And so what we have to do is actually, as managers, focus on strategic HR initiatives to actually pull young people up into the ranks of management and senior management as quickly as possible with these new skills. It's only going to be so effective to try to reskill our current management. We actually have to lean in to the wisdom of our youth and their natural ability to take on new challenges and new technology, as they're natively equipped to be lifelong learners. And so that is how we drive productivity gains. That is what's absolutely needed and necessary in the market today.
Thank you so much for that question. How to move software to the next level? I think we need to increase the number of succeeding startups. And that's a very complex question because it basically involves de-risking the space, reducing the level of risk that's available within the space. Now, the main challenge that we have leaping from academia into entrepreneurship, beyond even just, let's say, working for a big tech company, is learning how to deploy and then deploy to scale, right? That's never really taught in academia. That really comes from just going out and doing it. And the result of it is that typically there's a lot of failure, quite a lot of failure. And that also contributes to that, that perception question that we have been speaking about. So for me, what I would say, which is basically what we're trying to do at the Tech Innovators Network, is to use platforms, right? So using platforms actually helps you kind of leapfrog a bit of the problems. That's a very cliche one. But it also helps you accelerate quite a bit of what you want to achieve. One of the other ways that we're trying to solve that problem, especially to also de-risk the deployment of software, is to do it as a community, to actually work all of us together as software engineers. Since we experience the same problems, we almost always have similar solutions to a lot of those problems. So I think that's one. The second bit, of course, might be a bit technical, but it's actually the encouragement and the use of open source software. I'm looking at Microsoft. For instance, Meta is in the room. Meta actually has an open source, the open source the AI model, in as much as it's still a very heavy model. We don't have to do this, but in any case, there's that idea of, even in terms of community, to open source most of what we have. We don't have to repeat and replicate and rebuild the same thing over and over again. If we do have these solutions, to open source them to levels where we can share and co-create. So I think that's also one other area of looking at it. And I think from the government perspective, there's a very huge push towards digital public infrastructure, which is actually driven by a lot of that. So most of the answers are actually here. I think for us, the major thing is to really try and get most of these research solutions working. And I think with that, the next level.
Thank you very much to the panelists. Ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of this discussion, but I think the purpose was really to light up some bulbs in your minds in terms of, so where are we heading and why should we focus and what are those priorities that should really be at the top of our minds as we embark on this journey of maturing Kenya software sector and industry. Both we talked about there's a software part, there's a hardware, and the wider conversation of platforms, skilling, emerging technologies, investments, and how all these fit together to develop the industry. So the panelists, please be upstanding as please you acknowledge them with a very big round of applause for taking time to prepare with and being a part of this. Thank you very much. Yes, so now we want to get to understand a bit better where this journey is taking us. And so I want to invite Evans Gishoki, the Director of Software and Digital Services in the State Department for ICT and Digital Economy, to give us an overview of the inaugural Kenya Software Summit. Evans.
Good morning, our PSs, our CEOs, our secretaries, and the distinguished guests. And all protocols observed. Good morning once again. My name is Evan Gishuki. I'm the Director of Software Development and Digital Services at the State Department for ICT and Digital Economy. And as I give this conversation, I want to bring to attention to this logo that you are seeing here. Go back. The logo has a finger that points to a switching on. It's very, very symbolic. What you are doing, we are starting off the discussions in the software sector. It's by purpose, because this discussion has to start. And I appreciate all the guests who have spoken here. They have talked much, they have highlighted, they have ignited in our brains, and this is a discussion that we need to proceed on. So the Kenya Software Summit is focused on connecting minds, shaping software, driving growth, both in economic perspective, and this is a pre-summit to bring to attention of what is forthcoming. So my role and responsibility here is just to bring the background of this sim, and we thank our PS, Engineer John Tanuri, who one morning, I think one evening, while away out of the country, he sent me a concept note and told, think about it. It was unimaginable, and I didn't know how to move, but we have moved because it was just a dream in half a page. That's how it started. And he told us, with my team, software is the biggest contributor to the GDP, but the actors are just there doing their things. We are, as a government, we are on the other side doing our things, but then nobody seems to be concerned, and we need to bring this discussion. And this gave birth to this, and the focus on the global economy. If you look at it, I think statistics were given there. The global economy is being transformed by software, artificial intelligence, and other emerging technologies. And that drives for the need for strong software ecosystem, an ecosystem of all the actors, the public sector, the private sector, the development partners, and the rest. And Kenya as a country is positioning itself to lead this through the Silicon Savannah concept and in the need of the digital transformation. This software summit, we want to have it as an annual summit to continue this discussion. The discussion should not stop here. And it will bring together stakeholders in software development. We have brought some few. I know others are sitting here. We could not have managed to bring everyone on this because of time constraints. But we have a forum where we can have all this discussed. And this will be the first inaugural, the first ever software conference, and we are proposing to host it on October 2025. So the objectives as outlined: one, build and strengthen Kenya's software ecosystem. I don't have to belabor on it. Develop software and AI talent with global linkages. I don't have to belabor, the talent has been spoken about. Connecting innovators, startup students with the company, etc. has been spoken about. Attract global software companies and cloud service providers. It's been spoken that some of the partners are here, the private sectors are here. Foster open source and digital innovation community. It's been spoken by Brian. Promote leadership in ethical AI and data protection and software engineering. I know Data Commissioner, we have not spoken about data protection, but I think in the subsequent, we'll highlight it. But that's the objectives in a nutshell, and others that will come along the way. So the long vision is just an imaginary long vision of what we want to do. As Africa's leading annual software and digital conference by 2030, we hold it here in Kenya. And Kenya is a place of Africa for all nations. Support creation of at least 1 million digital jobs by 2030. And position Kenya as a global AI and software partner. This is just a vision. We are the actors to make sure that the vision is realized. So, who are the partners? The partners are here, and the partners are seated here. So the government is the center. We convene this to drive this discussion. We have the startup firms, we have the academia, we have research agencies, we have associations, I know they are seated here. We have the students, we have the BPO sector, business process outsourcing sector, we have the private sector, we have the development partners. So this is an ecosystem that we have to build, all of us. It's not for the government alone, it's not for the private sector alone, and that has been alluded very well by Catherine from Microsoft. So this, we want everybody to participate, and we drive this single agenda. So in the summit, we expect keynotes, workshops, hackathons, talent pavilions, startup demos, tech exhibition, policy forums, and boot camps. So in all this, we need partners. We need to join hands, and you can take one area that you are strong in, and then we bring this discussion and conversation. You know, today we had only 4 panels. We can bring more and discuss more on these topics. The thematic areas, I don't want to go into details, but we have the application domains, we have the technical themes and specializations, then we have the cross-cutting themes, which are research and development, talent skills development, policy regulation, infrastructure, and cloud hosting. Those are the 3 broader thematic areas, but in them there are sub-themes that fits everybody in that ecosystem. So out of all this, the software development will grow. It's anchored. Software by itself is not autonomous. It's supported by so multiple areas. So those are the focus areas that you can focus on. We're envisaging it to be a 3-day program. With the first day defining the ecosystem, and we have keynote speeches and the policy forum. Day 2, we want to have workshops in different thematic areas, as I highlighted in the previous slides. We need to have talent pavilions, we need to have hackathons. And in day 3, we'll have boot camps, a startup demo, and plenary and closing ceremony. That's how it should be running through. It's a 3-day summit. So from here, I know the next question is, what next? We have had a breakfast. We have spoken. What next? Our roadmap looked like that. Partnership and sponsorship that was running between July and August. We have been able to bring on board all these partners. In August to September, we are doing branding and marketing so that we can increase visibility of what we are doing. And in September, we'll have early registration. We have an opportunity for speakers in a summit. Around September, registration for that, we call for that. And then we lead to the actual summit. So that's the roadmap. No one is left out. Capture this, and when we call up for you, kindly supporters, let's move together. This is a career call we are making to make this a reality, and it's doable, and doable in Kenya. So the career call is called partner with the government and deliver successful inaugural software summit. And down there, the areas of partnership. If you're interested in any area, we have given our email address. But the email address here will change. It's MYCT. Sorry for this. That's our contact. Those are areas that you can focus on, and we'll have one-on-one engagements on the same area. So for me, that's what I wanted to bring to you, and I thank you and appreciate all of you, our panelists. We reached out to you, you came, you spoke to us. We have ignited the talk, and we appreciate so much. Our leadership, we are happy for your presence. Leadership, leading from front, and we'll support you, and you support us. And everyone and the stakeholders, we appreciate for coming early. It's not an easy thing to call people in the morning, to wake up and leave their beds and come here. Thank you so much, and welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much for reminding us of our warm blankets, especially in July. But I want to say that really the journey has started, and we want to co-create in the spirit of community. And before I continue, allow me to register and acknowledge the presence of our Principal Secretary in the State Department of Science, Research and Innovation. This is Professor Shaukat Abdul Razak, EBS. He is a special professor because he was my DVC in one of the learning institutions. I can say he mentored me when I was a young undergraduate student at Egerton University. So it's really a pleasure to have you here. And we know, given your passion for the youth and your passion for research, I think the docket is really in the right hands. I also want to acknowledge industry leaders with us, Ms. Mercy Degwa, Public Policy Director, Facebook, as well as the MD Oracle, David Bunei, Karibuni Sana, and thank you so much for gracing this session. At this point, I invite you to be upstanding. You've been sitting a while, and we'll call a Slido in the spirit of co-creation. So 1 minute of standing and sitting because you need to stretch. Please be upstanding. Please shake the hand of someone. Stretch. Yes, I want to hear conversation. Yes. Yes, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you very much. And now you can go back to your seats. We will have a quick fire session. Yes, please be seated. We will project a Slido, and the Slido will help us co-create the summit agenda. So we want to get